How's it going, everybody? I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny. But today, we're not talking about something sharp and shiny like this Chavez Redemption kickstop. We're talking about something to keep your knives sharp and shiny. This is the Oknife OreMake Whetstone. That's right, a affordable sharpening option for your knives. Now, typically for my pocket knives, I'd like to use an angled sharpening device like a Work Sharp Precision Adjust, but sometimes I sharpen other knives and sometimes I just want to go freehand. There's a lot of benefits to using a sharpening stone like this. So when they reached out and said, hey, would you like to check this out? I said, of course. Definitely, I would like to check it out because I use a whetstone already. I use a Sharp Pebble whetstone. It's a soaking stone and it's very similar to this, but the difference is that this one is currently on sale, $29 and some change. And of course, you can feel free to use my OBI discount code on their store for 10% off. It's RS10 for 10% off. Now, I use this to sharpen a chef's knife because it happened to be the dullest knife that I currently had in my possession. And so we sharpened this. This is a cheap Chicago cutlery chef's knife, chopping knife, whatever. I just know that I use it a whole lot and it gets dull more often than any of my other knives. And so I have a reason to use something like this on something like that. This is a soaking stone. It is a combination of 1000 and 3000 grit, so it's really good for things like maintaining a semi-dull edge or bringing an edge from completely dull to nice and slicey. Let's go ahead and check out what the OreMake Oknife Whetstone can do. Let's go. All right, now here we are, and guys, do me a favor. If you watch this and you feel like you get something useful out of it, make sure you smash that subscribe button because I do more than just knife reviews. As you can see, I also check out other EDC gear and also things that you can use to maintain it. So yeah, if you're wondering what we're doing now, this is a soaking stone, which means that you need to soak it beforehand. This is not something you use with oil, but you do want to soak it. It usually takes somewhere in the realm of about 5 to 10 minutes. As you can see right now, when you put it in a bowl of water or a tub of water, what you'll notice is that it's going to have bubbles start popping up. The real easy way to figure out when it's done soaking is when it stops bubbling. You might notice on the first soak that it makes some really weird noises, kind of like this weird high-pitched popping sounds. That's totally fine. That's just the air bubbles escaping the stone. Once those bubbles stop, that's how you know that it's done. Now that we're done soaking the stone, it's been about 10 to 15 minutes. We're going to go ahead and sharpen this Chicago cutlery chef's knife. And guys, it's not very sharp. Is it completely dull? No, but it's not slicing paper. So we're going to take that wood base, which is made of acacia wood, and it actually looks quite beautiful, by the way. We're going to take that and we're going to place it on a cooking sheet covered in a paper towel. This is going to help it so that it doesn't actually slide around. And even though it comes with a non-slip base, I do suggest doing it this way because throughout the process, we're going to be splashing water on it, and the towel being there also allows us to clean off the knife as we go. So all I'm doing right now is just putting it in that little rubber gasket, which is going to help make sure that it sticks inside the wooden base. Something that I really like about this is that the wooden base is nice and tall. It's much taller than a Sharp Pebble, and you want it to be as tall as you can so that it's easier to work. I'm going to place this at a 45-degree angle, and finding that edge bevel that already exists is not too difficult. You basically just tip up the knife until you find that nice, sweet, flat spot, which is the bevel, and then you lock your wrist what I'm doing right now is just some initial passes, just trying to make sure that I have the right angle and making sure that I get that action down. You want to move your arm from the elbow, not from the wrist. Any wrist action is going to change the angle of the edge, and it's going to make it much, much more difficult to get a nice edge on there. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and switch to the other side, and I'm just using the same directional strokes. And you can do this a couple different ways. You can use the same hand as before if you're not comfortable with your left hand. Personally, I like making sure that the directions are the same. I just find that it works better for me this way. But of course, if you have experience and you're better at this than I am, feel free to do it another way. This is just how I've learned how to do it. I like putting my fingers on the flat of the blade to apply pressure. And I'm continuing with these single directional strokes. I am going to switch it up here in a minute because I believe that I have correctly found my edge bevel. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and start doing some back and forth because this is much quicker. I found my bevel and now I can really get going. Once you find your rhythm and you really get going, you want to start checking for a burr. You can do that by just running your finger across the edge of the blade in a perpendicular type motion, and you could feel it. It feels like your fingernail is catching on something, and it's also a good time to go ahead and clean off the blade. Once we've established that burr, we want to go ahead and switch to the other side again and keep going so that we can knock that burr off and or flip it to the other side. This is called creating an apex, and this is what we want to do if we want to create a razor sharp edge. Once you can feel the burr on both sides after switching edges, it's a good time to go ahead and flop that stone over to the 3000 grit. We were on 1000 grit, now we're on the 3000 grit, and the 3000 grit is really going to help refine that edge. It's going to make it a little less toothy, or rather it's going to make the teeth a bit more fine. And this is how you can get a knife to be very, very slicey. It's going to be less bitey, but it's going to be way more slicey. And so when you see people doing those tricks where they just cut the paper thin slices of tomato, this is how they do it. It's by going up in grit progression from a coarser grit to a finer grit. And once you do that, you just want to go ahead and flip the stone over. The brown side of this stone is, in fact, the 3000 grit. And something else you want to make sure you're doing is continue to lubricate that stone. I have that bowl of water handy that I use to soak the stone, and I'm just gradually, as the stone starts to dry out, just putting some more water on there. And that lubrication makes a huge difference as far as making sure that you have a nice smooth stroke when you're sharpening the knife. And now at this point, we are pretty much done. All we're doing is essentially just refining that edge. And so we're going to do some more strokes like this, and then we're going to go ahead and finish it off on the strop. Finally, the moment I'm sure you've all been waiting for is the time to test just how sharp I got this knife with the OreMake Oknife Whetstone, which, by the way, guys, having used this knife, I'm going to say that it's actually really, really good. Extremely slicey, no problems. Before this, it wasn't even cutting paper, and I know I messed up. I probably should have shown you just how dull it was beforehand. But to be honest with you, I just wanted to talk about my experience using the knife and also to offer some context for anyone looking for a good whetstone, whether it's for your kitchen knives or for your pocket knives. You know what? On sale right now, $29 and some change. It's great. And that sale is on sale at $29 and some change. That's going to be going on until the 18th. So for 4 more days, you can get one of these whetstones. And even if you don't plan on using it for your pocket knives, I'm telling you, it did a number on this cheap kitchen knife. This is a Chicago cutlery kitchen knife that I got from Target. And you know what? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you have a $300, $400 kitchen knife, as long as it's sharp. A sharp knife makes all the difference. Some chefs actually think that the sharper your knife, the tastier the food is, because it ruptures less cell vessels in whatever you're cutting. That's crazy, right? Regardless, I think that this stone is great. I'm a big fan, and I think that it's actually what I would prefer over something like the Sharp Pebble, because it's much more competitive in price. It does the same thing, and I really enjoy the fact that you get both a 1000 and a 3000 grit stone. I know I didn't show the stropping part of this. I already have a very, very popular video on stropping. If you want to check that out, I will link it up there in the corner. But other than that, let me know what your thoughts are on these, guys. Do you like this idea? Do you use a whetstone? Are you afraid to use a whetstone? Something else before I go, if you're afraid to learn how to use a whetstone, this one is very beginner friendly. And if you have some cheap kitchen knives laying around, this is a great opportunity to test out your skills, to learn so that you can do better and so you can freehand more than just kitchen knives. But you let me know in the comments section down below. What do you think of the OreMake Whetstone? If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, I'm sure I will see you in the comment section. And if you want to watch more awesome knife content, make sure you hit subscribe, and I will catch you on the flip side.